Welcome to the 2025 Psychosocial Safety Summit, coming to you in March at the Murrook Culture Centre in Williamtown. Now, what I wanted to do again this year is introduce you to the speakers and partners in the lead up to the summit so that you can get to know these incredible people before you arrive. And look, if you haven't got your tickets yet, don't wait, jump on the link below. But today I would like to introduce you to AJ, who's an executive coach, board advisor, bush philosopher, and burnout recovery specialist. AJ, thank you so much for being involved in the summit this year. It is so incredibly aligned. So I'm so grateful that you're going to be a part of it.
Oh, I'm grateful too. Get me in a room with people that care about other humans and leading them well, and I'm there. Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Now, there might be some people who haven't met you before. Can you share with us a little bit about your background and experience?
Yeah, sure. I guess we won't start when I was a girl and a child, but let's just hop straight into career and business. I spent the first 15 years of my career in government and then in corporate. And after that, I jumped ship and went into business for myself as a consultant. And really now I work mostly with mid to larger companies looking at leadership development, empowering their executive women, and the well-being of their employees and people.
And we first got to know each other way back in the government days.
A long time ago, yes.
A really long time
I do have grey hair. I am 500 years old. Yeah, I guess we worked together in a state government agency where we worked on communication and looking at how we translated the work that we did into helping people in the community, businesses, leaders, and employees. And I think, like you, everything I've ever done has been around how do we help people thrive and not just survive at work.
Yeah. And I think our work and also our values have been incredibly aligned, which is why we have worked together in so many different ways. And again, I'm so excited for you to be coming to the summit and speaking about what your topic will be, which we'll get into a sneak peek on that in a moment. But what inspired you to go out on your own and start your own business?
Yeah, it's funny, and maybe it's similar for lots of business people where you go, I've got a skill and I can do something with it. But also it's because of the experience we have early in our career. And I really believe in that old anecdote of people join a company but leave their manager. And earlier in my career, I had some fantastic mentors and leaders that I was like, oh, one day I want to be just like them. And then I went to a couple of career changes and experienced burnout, bullying, and some very unhealthy cultures. And what I saw was just how much the impact day to day of a manager can have on their team and their staff. And so I really developed this passion for, I want to help leaders become more effective and more authentic, and how they can create sustainable, healthy teams where they're not frying their people and they're also not burning out themselves. And I think it was my own personal journey of actually overcoming burnout and adrenal fatigue that then I went, I have to help other people avoid this as well. And I think it's really easy when you're an employee to blame the boss. It's really easy to point the stick and go, it's them doing this to me. But we actually all have a part to play, and we all play out our own traumas and our own wounds. And we have to take some personal responsibility and accountability. And leaders are still in a position of power and really can shape how someone experiences work, which then flows into how they go home and how they are with their family, how they are in their community, whether they get to have a life outside of work and hobbies and all of those sorts of things. So I guess where I came into starting my own business, I went and retrained as a coach. I looked at all sorts of different things from neurolinguistics to neurology and understanding how the brain works, human behavior. And what that showed me was, you know, we're all just dear little humans doing our best. And if I can help leaders to be better humans, they end up being better stewards for the culture and the people that get to work with them. And you can just see a ripple effect. And I love working with all sorts of levels and all sorts of people, but I tend to work more with leaders because I know they're like that leverage point, you know, where a middle manager is the culture carrier. If we can get one or two leaders to change how they work, it actually has this exponential effect on all the people around them and below them. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into what I'm doing. And as you can see, I absolutely love what I get to do every day.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, because obviously you know my story, and I started my own business, similar circumstances. But
Yeah.
when you left the organization, you were my director. And when you left, it created a hole, it created a gap. And I was looking around going, well, things are different now. And a leader has such an impact on the culture of the team. And sometimes, I mean, I saw it when I was there, because I, like you, were looking at other people saying, I hope I can be like that one day. And that was you for me.
That's so generous.
So to see the differences in leadership behavior, but also the power that leaders have to be able to create safety or potentially destroy it too, is incredible that you're looking at that and delving into that, because most leaders, and we've discussed this before, most leaders want to have a fantastic working team. They want to do a good job. They just don't know how. And we
Absolutely.
just don't have the tools to do that. And often it's because we're too busy, and, the list of tasks coming down from above is, never ending. So to have someone like you diving into that is fantastic. But in a nutshell, can you share what your work does to help organizations thrive on top of what you've already shared?
Yeah. And I think aligned with all of that, and you can hear for anyone who's watching our alignment of values, we also have quite an alignment around food as well. And I think with a lot of the research I've done, and it can sound woo-woo, but around consciousness as well, a lot of it comes down to how aware and conscious a leader is for the impact that they have on others, but also individuals, when they're more conscious and aware of what they can do to manage their own state and their own stress and their own well-being in that process, so that we can all actually be active. And so a lot of my work is helping organizations build a leadership culture, and that's leaders with and without title, so that they can prioritize well-being and resilience, so that psychological safety is not a folder and a thing that we've got a policy about, but it's actually just how we do business. That how do we reduce burnout? Well, we show up as human, and we have some of the tough conversations about workload and what's expectations look like. What does it look like now? Some people work from home, and it really is. It's like a parent teaching a child how to ride a bike, right? And so we can put training wheels on, and we can tell a child, push here and balance here. But until you actually feel it and get it in your body, you don't kind of get it. Yeah. And so what we do is, like parents, helping a child learn to ride a bike, knowing they're going to fall off, knowing it's going to be bumpy and it's going to take a while. We just do things to create a safe environment. So we might do it on the grass with them. We might look at the training wheels or ways of limiting their fall so they don't hurt themselves, right? And I think that's what leaders should be doing, is helping their staff get up on the bike and ride for themselves and start to learn, how can I make some decisions and do things myself? But we have to create a safe environment to do that, where they don't need to sacrifice or fall off or get hurt in order to learn the lesson, where they'll get some little bits of feedback and start learning how to cycle better. So I'm really keen to see leaders do the deep work. And I always say that an organization or a team or a culture can only go as high as the leaders have gone deep. And so if leaders aren't prepared to look at their contribution in this, and they're just deflecting and blaming, they will not see a transformation or a change in their culture. We have to understand that people are emotional beings first, and then they're logical and intellectual. And I think in a lot of workplaces, we just lead with intellect. And so it's all telling and doing, and there's no real sitting with feeling, because that can be messy and uncomfortable. But what I want to do is shift people into understanding that it's a dichotomy. We actually have to have both of those together. And so true leaders know that I have to work on myself first and develop myself. And then I have to develop the expertise and the skills to support others and to create that environment where others can do that self-development work as well. So that's kind of where my life melds now, as well as walking around in the bush and bringing people into, you know, bushcraft. And I will add, in some of my personal development, some of the biggest linchpins, and I'm so excited that we're actually having this summit at Murrook, which is an amazing cultural centre. Some of the biggest lessons I've learned in my leadership later in my life have been through walking with elders, through going through initiations and processes with Indigenous First Nations people who, in a tribal sense, have taught me what it means to truly be an elder or a leader, and how they create a safe place for people to really explore what makes them tick and for them to grow. And so that learning has really deepened what I now do in workshops and, you know, in coaching and with organizations, and the richness that I've gained from ancient wisdom from those who have been extremely generous with their knowledge, the grandmothers and the aunties and elders. I think we can all learn a lot from, and we're still in that industrial mode, and it's not always just that productivity is quicker is better.
Yeah, and the industrial mode is short term, and it burns us out, and we're seeing that more and more. Most people have experienced it, and they know it, or they may not have known it, and they've got health issues from it. And that's one of the things that you'll be diving into at the summit. Is that right? Can you give us a little bit of a teaser about what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so my session is all about beyond the burnout. So how can we make small shifts and changes to have the biggest impact? And I'm writing a book at the moment called Leverage Leadership, and it's all about levers. It's about what are the smallest little things that we can, you know, push on in order to get the biggest impact. Because I'm acutely aware that we can't just do more. We can't just keep doing more. We can't consume more. We can't just think that more is better. And so I'm going to be diving in with a bit of an interactive kind of presentation, because that's my style. I like to get in and play with everyone in the room. And so I'm going to be looking at what are the small shifts we can make in our leadership behaviors, what are the small shifts we can make individually and personally, so that we build the right level and habits, that we avoid burnout, that we avoid triggering trauma responses, and that we create these thriving cultures where everyone and the water level rises for all of us. So I'll probably share a little bit of my burnout story. I won't dwell on that too much, but I want to actually take people in to explore a bit of what's their story, what are some really practical strategies that they can implement immediately, so that they can go, oh, if I just shifted this little thing, maybe that would make things better, so that they go away with some little things in their toolkit to foster their resilience, you know, look at improving performance without necessarily doing radical, you know, excessive hours, and how to just maintain a bit of your own, I guess, mental health and well-being, knowing that life is challenging, right? And business is busy. So how do we do that without frying everything in our poor nervous system in the meantime?
Yeah. And you've seen results personally. I know that I've followed some of the tips and tricks that you've shared as well. And we keep thinking that it has to be something huge and cold turkey, or having to do more to fit in, you know, in a day so that we could have a day off, but then we have to fall apart and recover on that day. Like it's not about that. It's about a holistic journey rather than a quick fix, because the quick fixes just don't work.
Absolutely. And the amount of clients and people I have through my 10-degree shift program who have suffered from really long-term chronic illnesses as a result of stress. And as a yoga therapist as well, what I see is most of the CEOs, execs, and managers that I deal with have all got some level of stress, whether that's relationship, workload, you know, physical stresses, but all of them are suffering under that. And I guess have looked for band-aids or things to do. They think they have to go on a health retreat, you know, forever. I have to give up everything. And it's not like that. It's, you know, there's a lot to do with the fact that the body is a self-healing mechanism. You know, our mindset has so much influence on how we experience the world. And so often there's just tiny little tweaks we can make of loving acceptance for ourselves, and maybe just a few small shifts in how we approach our calendar and our week and those sorts of things, that people can start feeling like, oh, I can actually breathe again. I've got a little bit of spaciousness, and that's allowing me to look at things in a different way. So I have hope. And I've seen people completely transform, and it doesn't happen overnight, that old saying, but you know, I've got people that have come back and done the program 3, 4, 5 times because they're like, okay, I'm ready to work on the next little shift. And if you look at the healthiest people around the world, not just in workplaces, but cultures, you know, the blue zones keep coming up. People are very acutely aware that the blue zones have the highest number of centenarians who live well and live with purpose and joy. And, you know, they do have a glass of wine, I think, a lot of them, but they just have meaning, purpose, movement. They stress less. They, you know, they just have common values. They have community around them. And that's why I love this summit that you're putting on, because what you're also doing is building community. And all too often, I think, I went to boxing on Monday. I love going to my local boxing here in the village that I live. And it's my way of connecting to community and finding out what everyone's up to. And someone said to me one day, why don't you get one of those Wii Fit things or those new things that you put on the wall and you just box on pads? And I was like, where's the connection or community in that? And I think all too often now, with work from home and technology that we have, everything's become a solo sport. And really, business and leadership is about how do we do it collectively together, and can we do that better? Yeah.
And we can do so much better and so much more together. Like the connections that we have, the community that we create, like from Brisbane to now, like the connections in Brisbane were incredible. Even the connections in the virtual summits that you were a part of as well, like lifelong friendships have been made from those. And it gives me goosebumps to think about that, because we can do better, we can do more, and we can work to our strengths and leverage off that and support each other in a better way. So yeah, I love that. And I know people will get so much value out of your session, but also it's not for a couple of months and people may not want to wait that long. So how can they get in contact with you if they want to connect and find out more before then?
And it's only 30 minutes and I'm like, ooh. For someone who's accustomed to running lots of full day or 3-day retreats and workshops, 30 minutes is going to be my challenge. But I'd love to share. People can check me out on my website, alexandrajoy.com.au. LinkedIn is probably my best and preferred kind of space, and I'm AJ Alexandra Joy on there. I've also got a free communication toolkit. Well, it's $47, but for your guys and everyone at the summit, we're going to give you a fresh code to get that for free. And that's a really basic but powerful communication toolkit that helps managers or leaders that are dealing with change and restructure in the workplace to know, what should I say and what shouldn't I say, and what could I do and not do to create that safe environment, and where I'm not traumatizing people, which can happen a lot during change because people get really scared during change. So how can I help people not feel afraid? And also, how can I understand the emotional cycle and response that people have during change, so that I don't go, why are they just not getting on board? And I can start understanding, oh, where are they at in the cycle of acceptance, you know? And then how do I maybe change my communication and adapt it for the stage that people are in? So yeah, more than happy to share that. And LinkedIn's probably the best, but anything at all that you want to talk about, leadership, well-being, healthy teams, spirituality, I am on it all.
Fantastic. And I love and thank you so much for providing that tool as well. And not only the tool, but your session in the summit, which is all about the how. It's what do we do? We know that there's a problem. Give me the steps. And that's what the summit's all about. That's what the connection and the community is all about. So once again, AJ, thank you so much. I am incredibly grateful and I cannot wait to see you in person at the summit.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in person right there.